morning to you. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. It is the 2nd of March 2023, and here the latest news from across the continent of Africa. But first, let's start with the headlines of some of the leading newspapers, and we start with those from Kenya. The Daily Nation: fees reprieve as university reforms loom. President William Ruto yesterday assured parents and students that the government is not planning to increase tuition fees, even as struggling public universities braced themselves for drastic measures to keep afloat, scraping off unattractive courses, closure of satellite campuses, and possible mergers and massive job cuts. That story is on page 6 and 7. Bola Tinubu, Nigeria's political godfather, the 70-year-old has fulfilled his lifelong goal by winning the presidency of Africa's most populous nation. The story is on page 34. IDP sue city politician using Ruto's name to grab their land. The story is on page 10. We turn our attention now to the Star newspaper. Revealed inside Ruto's elaborate security strategy. Security officers to be deployed permanently in troubled North Rift region. And then, of course, the main pictorial, godfather of Lagos, now father of Nigeria, and that is the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and President-elect Bola Tinubu in Abuja in Nigeria yesterday. New NSSF rates affected on employees' February pay, affected. That is on page 11. And married at 16 to old man, abused mom of 4 goes back to school. And APRO MPs link LGBTQ court verdict to donor cash. That story is on page 6. The Standard newspaper. More tax pain as goods prices shoot up again, already reeling under effects of high cost of living. Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets as prices rise with implementation of new tax measures on, among others, beers, soft drinks, and beauty products. The story is on page 4. And making of Ruto's UDA behemoth, Cleophas Malala's uphill task of convincing 16 affiliate parties to fold into a single party juggernaut ahead of 2027 polls. Surely, with everything else that is going on that requires urgent attention, we're already thinking of 2027. Okay, now Weatherman's new warning: expect below average rains. That is on page 12. And godfather of Nigeria's politics takes the helm. And that is what we have. Let me see some of the, before I get to the other newspapers, maybe let me just get into them and then we can look at a bit of some sporting action, and we see what is happening also as well in that. So we start, we continue, and with those papers from Nigeria. The Punch: Tinubu woes Atiku, Obi as parties reject results. PDP, LP, NNPP, others refuse to sign election results sheet in Abuja. Buhari, Osibanjo, UK, ECOWAS, Senate, governors congratulate President-elect. Obi campaign mulls legal battle as Tinubu visits Buhari in Daura. And then the Daily Trust, also from Nigeria: Atiku, Obi head to court as Tinubu pledges fairness. NNPP demands cancellation as Asiwaju visits Buhari in Daura. UK Prime Minister Osibanjo, IBB, ACF congratulate President-elect. And then court remands representative leader Dogoa over murder and arson. The Nation, also from Nigeria: I hear you loud and clear, President-elect tells youths. Okay, but has he really? Anyway, poll results reflect will of Nigerians, says Buhari. Tinubu's victory excites capital market. Very well. This day, also from Nigeria: Tinubu, my certificate of return is called to duty, I can't ignore. And how Nigeria's full crisis, cash crunch, ends 31-month growth in business activities. The Guardian, still from Nigeria: Tinubu extends olive branch, invites youths to rescue Nigeria. Daily News from Zimbabwe: Poll set to be disputed again. Some parties claim, but experts say only courts can provide relief. Okay, so and Zimbabwe also, they're heading to their polls in about 4 months now. And they've not even gone to the polls yet, but they're already talking about polls being disputed because I guess of the preparations that have been ongoing, some of which have been a bit controversial. So yeah, that's the nature of our elections here in the continent. Newsday also from Zimbabwe, U.S. envoy jets in for poll talks. But why? That is, they are going to Zimbabwe to talk about elections. Interesting. Daily Monitor from Uganda, MPs raised 28 grounds to disband NSSF top brass. And New Vision as well from Uganda, Parliament wants minister to resign, NSSF bosses fired. The citizen from Tanzania, Tanzania louds French court's verdict on EACOP. And the New Times from Rwanda, DR Congo's problems cannot just be wished away. That is what President Kagame is saying. And then innovations that work, what we can learn from Israel. And then Rwanda, Los Angeles City explore areas of partnership. See, Kagame is busy working. The rest of you are busy just politicking around. Okay, let's look at some other papers from the UK. The Daily Express, Harry and Meghan rage at cruel eviction. And newspaper, UK chickens may get jabs to stop bird flu instead in humans. The Metro, second by Hancock's messages. COVID victim families hit out at WhatsApp chats suggesting he overruled care home test advice. The Daily Telegraph, Hancock's rearguard action to shut down schools. And the Daily Mail, Curry, keep killer pilot behind bars. And that is what we have in some of those headlines from across the continent of Africa. So let's look at some, just a bit of weather report. Sorry, that is Siri. Sorry. Okay, so farmers, that is in Kenya, have been advised to plant crops that take shorter period to mature as the country prepares for long rains between March and May. The Kenya Meteorological Department predicted that rains will start in March but will below average. KMD Executive Officer David Gikungu, who spoke during the 6th conference of the National Climate Outlook Forum, said the country will have depressed rainfall with some regions receiving normal rainfalls, and farmers who are used to growing crop varieties that takes long time to mature should consider crops that mature in shorter time because of the predicted reduced rainfall. That is not very good news there, but this issue to do with climate change is really affecting everything. A few years ago, we knew around this period, this was the period for long rains, but things have changed. Okay, so let's look at some sports news and see what the Kenyan newspapers have covered on matters sports. Spurs tune off just to end 16-tie losing streak. That is what we have there. San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich with forward Keldon. I think one of the captions there. And Kenyan squad to step up training at Windsor Classic. That is on golf. Foden brace inspire City into FA Cup quarters. That is on English Premier League. And Slam Boys give Giants Kogalo reality check. That is in the Kenya Premier League. And Mourinho says he's emotional, not crazy. Okay, that's interesting. Let me just read a bit of that. Roma boss Jose Mourinho was sent off in his side Serie A defeat to Cremonese, his third red card of the season on Tuesday. Cremonese claimed their first win of the season with the late Daniel Siofani penalty, securing a 2-1 win. Mourinho, who is 60 years old, was sent off 2 minutes into the second half, but said he was provoked by the fourth official. So he's saying he was just emotional, not crazy. That's quite something there. Djokovic says return to top sport more special after a year of hardship. That is the Serbian tennis player Novak Djokovic there. So that is just a bit of some sports roundup and some headlines in regards to that. So now let's look at the update on some of the weather conditions that we have from across the continent of Africa. Johannesburg, I expected highs of 26 degrees and lows of 13 degrees. That it's going to be a sunny day there in Johannesburg, and in Nairobi 29 degrees Celsius, highs and lows of 16 degrees. And it's going to be mostly sunny here in Nairobi, and indeed it is a beautiful day. In Accra, 32 degrees highs and lows of 27 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be partly cloudy in Dakar, that is in Senegal, highs of 24 degrees Celsius and lows of 18 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be partly cloudy. And in Abuja, highs of 39 degrees Celsius and lows of 23 degrees Celsius, and Abuja is going to be very sunny there for you. And in capitals like Alexandria, in cities like Alexandria in Egypt, it's going to be just partly cloudy but mostly sunny with high degrees, 15 degrees highs, and Bujumbura 22 degrees with some sunshine and some cloudy situation there expected. So that is what we have. And Chicago is bracing for travel disrupting snow. Winter has just refused to go away right now in the U.S. And large winter storm to spread across Midwest and Northwest, and also severe weather to strike more than a dozen U.S. states. Also, Alabama father charged after toddler dies in hot car. So those are just some news related to the climatic conditions from across the world. So you are now up to date. A very good morning to you. It's now 16 minutes past 10 a.m. here in Nairobi. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. So let's just get on to some news-making headlines across the continent. And we start with the Nigerian election update. The U.S. has congratulated Nigerian President-elect Bola Tinubu and citizens following the just concluded general elections. The State Department, however, acknowledged the frustration among some Nigerians and parties regarding the way the elections were conducted. Amid technical problems that have fueled accusations of fraud, it called on the electoral body to improve on the highlighted issue before the 11th March gubernatorial elections, noting that Nigerians were right to expect them to do better. The U.S. also urged all parties to avoid violence or inflammatory rhetoric at this critical time and seek to resolve any disputes through legal channels. Mr. Tinubu, who is 70, was declared the winner of the 25th February election with 37% of the vote on Wednesday, but opposition parties have disputed the results. The Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, who finished third in the elections, has promised to challenge the results in court. So, first of all, I don't know why the U.S. always I think it lost that position when they had the elections there that resulted in a lot of chaos. And so many, no, not so many years later, over 2 years later, because it just happened the other day, the main culprit has not been found guilty, has not been charged. And they still have what they call election deniers and things, and things like that. So the U.S., to me, lost that moral ground to lecture us about how we need to do the elections. And remember when I was reading to you one of the headlines there, the newspapers from Zimbabwe, the U.S. has sent its officials to Zimbabwe to check on their election preparedness. Like, why does the US find it necessary and feels that this is the position it has in the world? I do understand we are in a unipolar world where the US gets to be the superpower, but nevertheless, it's not the prefect of the world. There are some internal matters and internal affairs, like, for instance, the election of a country, that should be left for that country to decide and to do and to plan and do all these things by itself. And maybe, just maybe, come in if help is asked, or if your opinion has been sought, or if your something has been sought from you, then you can come in and offer whatever it is that has been sought from you. But before that, I think the US must learn to respect other countries' sovereignty and stop imposing itself so much, because it's not perfect. The US, it is not perfect. It is one of the mature democracies in the world, but it is not perfect. So this position it has given itself of it has to prefect the rest of the world. It has to prefect, especially here in Africa, it feels like it is its responsibility to come and talk to us about democracy, to come and talk to us about certain things and values and cultures that sometimes are not even in line with who we are as a people in this continent. So the fact that here, of course, they're giving their opinion and they're saying, that INEC needs to do better, of which INEC needs to do better because there are other elections that are coming up in 2 weeks' time. And so what we saw happening on Saturday should not see a repeat. INEC, I hope, is preparing well and perhaps has noted some of those loopholes, and maybe it's working to make sure that that is not the same experience that Nigerian voters will have to experience. That kind of ineptness should not be what Nigerians will experience in 2 weeks' time when they go to on the other second leg of the elections. But nonetheless, the US is urging all parties to avoid violence and all that, which is fine, but still, US just congratulate the winner and then just mind your business. When President Biden was elected, when President Trump was elected, President Obama and the rest of them earlier before that, our job is to congratulate them. We don't evaluate the elections. We don't evaluate how they carry out their process. We don't do that. We don't meddle. We just, you'll see our leaders congratulate the winners and move on. And I think the same respect must be accorded to African countries. But I guess, well, when you hear that they're going to Zimbabwe, maybe Zimbabwe now is not able to take care of its elections. Is not able to take care of its elections. The same Zimbabwe that the U.S. has sanctioned its president. President Mnangagwa cannot travel to the U.S. President Mnangagwa and his government officials are heavily sanctioned, a few of them. But now, even with all that and all these things that Zimbabwe has been accused of human rights abuses and all these things, the U.S. still finds it necessary to come and still want to be part of the Zimbabwe's election system and to want to play a role. Why would you want to play a role in a country and in a leadership that you don't even believe in a country and in a leadership that you've kept, having these kinds of relationship with, in the name of you were championing for human rights, you're championing for democracy. And that is the problem with these liberal countries, and to some large extent, I'm a liberal because I believe in certain rights and freedoms and all that. I root my belief in that, but partly. But also, these countries that claim to be liberals and are led by liberal ideas to promote peace and cohesion and cooperation and strong institutions and democracy around the world. When you look at most of the conflicts around the world, they are still the same countries that actually have caused or have played a part in destroying the very same thing they claim that they are protecting and they're fighting for in the name of whatever it is that they believe. Look at how they destroyed Libya, the US, France, UK, in the name of they want to remove a dictator, they want to create